Alrighty. Well, I want to talk about the story that led to the cardboard house as it is today. Where I started, what the ideas happened, a few of the trials and tribulations on the way through, and my path to the finished product, from idea to finished product. So yeah, how it basically started initially was I went and got my propane freezer quite a while ago, as some of you know. Now in that box was a kind of cardboard cushioning in the packaging that I had seen maybe once or twice. I'm sure I'd seen it when I worked at air radiators in the stores department, because I have seen it a little bit in the dumpster there. And anyway, it was this exact sheet. Now that is honeycomb cell cardboard that is about 3/8 of an inch or 10 millimeters. I'll fall down. And I was playing around with that, and it was exceedingly strong, and I was actually shocked at how I could lean my hand into it and it wouldn't collapse. And I thought, this is unbelievable. Now, a couple of pointers on building in Australia. A few strange building facts, that may sort of surprise some city people, especially foreigners. Now, I know in the States you've got cob, and that's sort of recognisable. Over here, I don't know if we have cob or not. What I do know for a fact is, and I've been in these buildings, we have mud brick buildings. That's fully legit, completely sorted, it's government recognised stuff. There's no there's no magical permits or rubbish you need to build mud brick. Same goes for straw bale houses that either have some sort of cob or render, or like a mixture of cement and plaster of Paris or something like that, screeded over the top. Now, some screed it directly onto the straw, others put chicken wire and then screed it over the top of that, like, render it onto it. So yeah, now they're legit building methods. Also, when I worked at a particular framing place, building house frame, well, actually I was in the truss section, putting together trusses for your big triangles for your roof. They were flipping huge. You had these massive steel table things, and yeah, a big roller to come along and roll the gang nails in. But anyway, getting back to the point, there was a product that they sold there. It was polystyrene sheet, and these fancy, you got wood screws, and you got these little washer things, they're actually quite large, like at least 2 inches wide, with little sort of needle bits in them. It's just the sort of flat bits bent up, almost gang nail style. And you whack those in with 3-inch timber screws, and that allows the timber screw to get a better grip on the polystyrene sheet, and that is also bona fide, full-blown, recognised building material. I can remember them loading it onto the back of the semi-trailers, on the back of the big rigs with forklifts, the big heaps of blooming polystyrene. You go out to lunch and the truck driver will be there on the forklift dumping on all this stuff. And they have acrylic render, which is basically your cheap $2 gap filler, that just fills your smaller gaps around your windows and your door architraves and that. They have something which is basically that stuff and like sand or something to give you, like sand that's been processed to, a certain size grade through sieves and whatnot, to give you a render. Now, when you look at polystyrene, mud brick and straw bales, I tell you what, cardboard doesn't look too stupid. And there I was playing around with that stuff. 10 mil, 3/8 of an inch thick, saying, man, this is strong. So I decided I'm going to try and find out about this stuff, see if I can get some, because I reckon it's worth building a building out of. And I was going to go ahead and have a go, as I did and as I have done. And I ran around all these places that were cardboard sales. I even went to a depot, a recycling depot of the place that I eventually bought the stuff from, to have them tell me it doesn't exist in this country, to have a whole heap of people say it doesn't exist in this country. Where'd you even get that stuff from? And I said, well, you know, said, oh, it come from a packet of stuff, you know, something made in China, didn't it? Because I got it over there. And I said, yeah, well, it come with me freezer. And, oh, it's not available in this country. Blah, blah, blah. I crashed through emailing a cardboard coffin manufacturer who didn't want to have anything to do with me, didn't want to sell me any nothing, not the whole coffin, not the offcuts, not nothing. You won't need this, you just want to completely blind swipe me. No thanks to them. I'd say their name if I was enough of a mongrel. Anyway, then I emailed all these different places who said it doesn't exist, it doesn't exist. I mean, I banged through most of the cardboard box places in existence in the capital that were, you know, easily found. I've banged out to about, I visited or emailed about 15 places. No, doesn't exist. One place said, emailed back and said, yes, there's somebody I know, I'll put you onto them, I'll give them your number to them and they'll contact you. And lo and behold, it was, tell you a dirty little secret about the cardboard industry. Now this is one of the reasons I wouldn't manufacture this stuff here on a big scale. We don't have monopolies in this country, we have quite a number of duopolies in a lot of different industries. Cardboard industry is one of the most pronounced. 98% of the market is controlled by two places. Those two places are Visy and Amcor. It's no secret who these two places are, so I'm going to say that. Now, Richard Pratt, who ran Visy, I'm going to put this nicely. In the opinion of the law courts of Australia, he was involved in price collusion, so the judges found with Amcor to set a price and hold the whole market to that price, and this is after they had basically, one way or another, eliminated the competition to, between Amcor and Visy, control 98% of the market. Now this wretched Pratt bloke has died only a few years ago, about a year and a half, 2 years ago, and things are still pretty much the same. Anyway, with great thanks to Visy, I got this, and this was actually reject. They imported stuff from somewhere. I could just about say it'd probably be China, to test it to see if it met the standards that they wanted, the crush weight standards and blah blah blah. Anyway, they had to get like a whole shipping container of it over, or quite a bit they wanted to test, or they were just forced to buy quite a bit, like a whole shipping container full, to find out that it wasn't up to their standard and they weren't really interested in it. And then it was sitting on their shelf, and they didn't just want to throw it into the recycling machines if they could still sell it. But they were hanging on to it, and they'd been hanging on to it for months and months and months, like 6 or 9 months. And they were they just wanted to get rid of it because it didn't actually meet their standards. And they just had tested the stuff they wanted to test, and they had all the stuff left over, and they just wanted to get it out of their hair. That's the way I got this. I got around 20 sheets for $383. Not being a commercial customer and not having an account with them can be a pain in the butt. I often got forgotten about and would ring back. It took me 4 weeks before they even got it from the shelf and put a bit on a pallet and put an order ticket on it. 4 weeks. You know, I was told that when you, you'll have a order number and you've got to quote that when you do the electronic funds transfer. I didn't then get an order number. More screwing around, ringing around. They had to go through all their stuff, their internet banking to find that I had actually paid it. And I said, well, how come I wasn't given a number? Oh, sorry about that. Sorry. Every time it was sorry about that. But look, as not being a commercial customer, I think I just got left in the dust. And she was an extremely busy salesperson too. She had a lot of people and a lot of work and would drive all over the state on a daily basis. And this is a big state. Have a look and compare it to the size of American states. I think she had the whole of the west of the state at least that she had to deal with. But, we got it there. And then I had a courier. How do you get a question from a courier like, oh, what if I turn up and there's no one there? And he's talking about a place that's open at standard hours with 80 or 90 employees in there. Oh, I need a direct number for the place. Why? Because I've got to check if they're going to be there. They're going to bloody well be there. I'm trying to tell this bloke this is a multinational company. Vizzy is the one who handles all the rubbish for New York City after they got sick of all the mafia shenanigans. Anyway, it took me a week to get the courier to get down there. 5 weeks from when I got that initial phone call to when I actually got it. And I was about to put it all together and I realised how hard the winds were here. Because you've got to realise that I got that stuff just before the onset of winter in Australia in the southern hemisphere. Which would have meant that it would have been in the last 2 or 3 weeks of spring that I actually received the delivery and got it in my shed, in my laundry actually, and had it in my hands. It would have been like the last 2 or 3 weeks of spring in America, because it was the last 2 or 3 weeks of autumn here in Australia. And at this time I was still all working at air radiators, so I do this stuff on the weekends and stuff, primarily just on the weekends. Anyways, there was a bit of equinox, which causes a lot of winds blowing, if you know what equinox is, and I got a bit fearful about the structure after I built the floor, and that's why I put in a very minimal amount of framing. I was hoping to be able to sort of stick it to itself, or sort of stack it all in the right way that it would sort of, all support each other, so to speak. But then I was a bit worried about all the wind, so I set up that small amount of framing. Now, I slowly worked away on this bit by bit, and kept thinking, oh, I'll get it done soon, and then realised, it was a big project. Also, I was going to do the whole lot in wax and coat the whole lot in wax. I'd done some experiments with a heat gun that I bought and some candles, and try to melt wax over the top of it, because I was going to do the whole thing like a wax cardboard box. Well, what happened was the wax would go liquid and soak into the cardboard. So I had a few pieces like that, and I stuck them outside on one of my wood heaps, and I literally screwed them into some wood with a few screws and a cordless drill. And I tried doing it with newspaper, then I tried doing it with thin card, which is, basically what your biscuit boxes are made out of. And then I tried it with some duo-core standards, stuff that, I think it was duo-core. Could have been, duo-flute rather. It could have been the single-fluted stuff, I can't remember. But it's actually still sitting out there on the wood. And, I'd done that. But a lot of it would sort of, the top layer was left exposed because you'd melt it and it'd melt right through. So then you had to sort of melt some over it and get it to dribble over but not soak in, which was very hard. So in the end I thought, you know what, this might not even work, and I don't want to waste hundreds of dollars, $383 worth of cardboard on this. So then I decided to do a certain waterproof coating, which I tried out and proved to be very good. I also changed from PVA glue to a different sort of glue that foams a little bit to be able to allow for a bit of error, because it seemed that some of these things, these pallet edging that I was sticking to this honeycomb cell sheets, weren't sort of quite gumming together properly. There'd be gaps because one wasn't straight and I didn't know what one, and it may have been the actual honeycomb cell, I wasn't sure. So I used this foaming stuff which sort of allowed it to, well, fill up the gaps. Anyway, I slowly worked away on the weekends thinking that I was going to get it a heap done, and realised that it was a lot slower than I was expecting it to be. And, you know, when the offer comes through for air radiators to take a redundancy package, I had to think about it. And I thought, you know what, I'm getting sick of this place anyway, because I just do the same old, day after day. And you know what, I got enough money sitting here, and I'll probably get enough money from the redundancy package to be able to build this, possibly sell it and recoup my money back, at least, you know, more than the materials cost, and, you know, possibly a bit of labour. That was the idea. Maybe even get a television exclusive. Now, I know somebody. I know this person personally who was involved in a television exclusive. How can I put this? There's basically a very renowned serial killer in this country. They were one of the few people who was grabbed by them but got away. Their friend got raped, but they got away scot-free, and most people just got murdered. And anyway, they went and told their story. The figure was astronomical. It was more than the money they got, I can't really say, but it was more than double what my mortgage is now. They basically bought half or more than half of a house with a 1-hour interview. Unbelievable. Horrific thing to have gone through, but if I could achieve something like that, I wouldn't care if it was just enough to cover my mortgage. That would be great with a TV exclusive, as you know. Hasn't happened. And, you know, and if all else failed, at least get a bit of coverage and get a crowd of people who are interested in making stuff with cardboard, you know, as a bit of a hobby or whatever, so I could run classes off that, and then make a bit of a living or part of my income out of that. You know, just get something out of all this stuff. And I assumed it was remarkable. I know it's crazy. It's still crazy. You know, it's a lot of people got a lot of, you know, God blimey, only homeless people live in cardboard boxes. You know, people see it and they're just shocked. I've had an outsider seen it while it's still being built. I couldn't help it. They had to come here for not here, but to the other place where I've got it hidden, for other purposes, and they couldn't avoid but seeing it. And they were quite impressed, and my sister was quite surprised and sort of impressed, and at first I thought a lot of people would just laugh at it, and I wasn't really sure how people were going to handle it, but I knew it would be controversial all the same, or people would be either, you know, well, like they have been, either absolutely floored or possibly sort of in denial, or think, oh my gosh, this is absolutely brilliant, this is amazing. And that's been it. It's been a real sort of polar sort of, they've been all one way or all the other way. You know, there's no sort of sitting on the fences. You know, it really has been a full-blown, whoa, or full-on, oh my gosh, oh no, oh my, what the hell, sort of thing. So I thought either way, you know, I'm going to sort of, my job was going down the drain. It was boring enough. It was also about to finish. And I thought, well, you know, maybe this is the push you need to get into the next step of your career. Now, off the back of all that, after that one was built, I thought, well, I could build tiny houses, which I had been fully intending to do for quite a while. When I open up these second-hand truck and equipment magazines and see buildings that are $25,000 second-hand, I think it may be a smart idea for somebody who spent 8 years in the building industry, rebuilt houses, completely built from scratch, other buildings, renovated kitchens, that it may be an idea that I do a sensible thing and follow, and move into that. And I thought, well, this would be a fantastic springboard because you'd already be known for the cardboard house. And then from that, that can help you sell tiny houses because, this tiny house was built by the man who built the crazy cardboard house. And I'm still intending to go down the tiny house road, just that I've spent quite a bit of money and a lot of time on this building. And so, yeah, that's, I made the decision that, yes, this is the push we need, and I'll sign the redundancy form, and we'll go with a wad of money, and it wasn't a very big wad at all. It was barely enough, actually, to make it worth going in some respects because it wasn't terribly grand amount of money. I would have hoped for a bit more, but I thought, look, you're probably going to get bored of this job and quit anyway. And a lot of the time the company was hoping that people would quit of their own accord to allow the company to save money. But then it got to the point that the work was so low that people weren't quitting or changing jobs quick enough, and they just put out a redundancy package. And I thought, well, your option is to take thousands of dollars or take nothing. And you'd be stupid to take nothing, so just take the damn money that they're going to offer, as opposed to get sick of this in another 2 months and then leave the place anyway and get nothing. So I thought, well, there we go. So that made the decision. And then I worked full time on that. There are days there where, I work 14 days straight on the cardboard house. But the trouble is when you work, not many people realise this, they're all sitting there armchair critics, blah, 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 when Troy's doing stuff and whatnot. But, man, you get absolutely sick to death of building after long periods, and I realised that when I was fixing this house up. I love building, no doubt about it. I love it, but I've got to have a breather. I've got to have days off to just completely forget it altogether and do other stuff because it drives you insane. But all in all, we moved ahead. There were, a few initial trials and errors, and I had to sort of get a mental breakthrough even to nut the plumbing out. That I had one idea of how to do it, which probably would have been a far better idea, and I've still got that idea in mind that it still may be a viable idea for the S bend. But then I thought, this probably won't work, and then I had a bit of a mental breakthrough of how can we do this but not do an actual S bend. And then, yeah, I'd done the one that I'd done. I was so annoyed that I was pissed like you wouldn't believe when that sink failed. I was just about ready to kick that whole sink just to bloody mush. Man, I was pissed. I thought, you bastard, all the time I spent on it, because you've got to wait for all these waterproofing layers to dry. And I'd spent more than 2 weeks putting stuff on and then waiting for it to dry to build the sink. It drove me nuts. I probably could have done it a bit quicker, but God, it wasn't simple. And I'm going to try and salvage bits of that sink and eventually fix that sink. And that because that waterproof coating, the specialised one that's proof against boiling water that's in it, is very damn expensive. And I can't really just spend enough on that coating without just turning around and throwing it in the bin. Bits that I could use, such as the main sink basin itself, which I believe is still usable, but the pipes are going to have to be redone primarily. There's other little methods and tricks that I worked out would be better, and waterproofing could be so much cheaper. That cost me $600 plus, $650 maybe. It was bucket loads. It was more than $500 anyway, just in waterproofing and glue. And basically, the glue obviously you can't avoid, but the waterproofing, I've found a different method that I could do it a lot cheaper and bring the cost of the glue and the waterproofing, bring that right down to, you know, like no more than about $250 total. So there we go. Probably only, about that. Hiccups. So yeah, that's the story behind the waterproof house ski. One other thing you may notice, charge controller video in the progress videos is a little bit different. I've got a very small one with no display, and I didn't really think that was performing because I tried to start recharging when the battery level had dropped. It was supposed to kick into a new bulk charge. I couldn't get it to respond. I later found out that putting spotlights over a solar panel doesn't have crap on, you know, holding it to the sun. I could get a short circuit voltage, which is a test with a multimeter, of 1.3 amps, which was what it was rated to. I put 200 watts of spotlights over the top of it. The power coming in was 0.2 of an amp, shown by the new charge controller with the display, which is the same kind, the exact same kind, from the same place as what's on the fridge. So basically, there may not have been enough amps to trip the smaller charge controller over. But yeah, all the same, that one got taken back, and the bloke behind the desk was shaking when I was handing it back, and got the other one, and yeah, the other one, as usual, is a dream because it's got a screen on it and tells you what's going on, whereas the smaller, cheaper ones, you know, do the job. I've got one in my backup shower, and that works fine. But no lights, nothing, not even a single LED to tell you anything. So yeah, they're not the preferred one, and I changed to my preferred one, which you put on a battery and the screen lights up and tells you what the hell is going on straight up on the screen, numbers there, the whole works, and the last 3 days of how much, or the existing day and the last 2 days of how much amp hours you've bought in. So yeah, but it looks like it's going to be moved over here now, and fingers crossed that doesn't result in big bangs and crashes, because I'm going to be really fuming if this damn truck driver screws it up. I'm just about going to strangle him. You know, if he thinks, oh, you know, we'll drive 80 k's an hour, no, you're not. You're going to putt along as slow as buggery, because I want this thing to survive and get over here in one piece. So I've still got it as a showpiece, because it's looked like it's basically going to end up being the most expensive conversational piece that a man has ever built for himself to use as a conversational piece, because that's all it's going to amount to. I'm sure it'll also, when I do sell tiny houses, it'll also be a very interesting little piece for, you know, people to look at as well, if I even let him into my house. But I may just give him a little DVD of it instead, or something like that. But anyway, yeah, that's the story, and you may quite possibly see me making videos from inside the cardboard house when I get it here in about 3.5 weeks' time. Yeah, I may try sleeping in it and the whole shebang. I've got a little bit of stuff I've got to work out with the door to guard that better from water. And, you know, I may sleep in it and the whole bit. I may even put lino on the floor and everything yet. You know, and I would like to fix the damn sink too. But yeah, you know, it's been a hell of a ride, and a hell of an expensive one that hasn't amounted to much, which is my most disappointing part of the whole thing. But all the same, who do you know who's got a cardboard house? Is that a good conversational piece or what? I guarantee you it'll be the first time I can get some girls to come to my house to have a look at something without even putting in a real effort. You know. So yeah. There we go. That's the story of the cardboard house. Very long version.